Hi, I'm Susie Fabricini. Today is lesson 5 out of 6 on winning the wealth game, and today we're going to be talking about building strategies. So, strategizing. In order to figure out how to set up our strategies, we have to know what we have to work with. And there's two different areas that we have stuff to work with in. One is in the assets that we already own. So that's all of the items that were in our net worth category. And then it's also our income minus our expenses. And so first of all, we're going to talk about the income minus expenses part. So we're going to be building up our budget. That's how we figure that part out. And I'm going to set up a budget. This is going to be a personal budget because not all of us have businesses on the side right now. So we're going to set up the budget starting with, so if you do have a payout if you have a business, then you're paying yourself out. So that would be a payout from your business. Or if you have a job, your paychecks, gifts, interest, and then space for other, because we're going to come up with all kinds of other exciting ways to bring cash in. And let me pull up this other screen. Are you seeing a spreadsheet now?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do this together. If you pull up a spreadsheet, I think you should be able to toggle back and forth on your computers if you make the picture small so it doesn't fill up the whole space. And we're going to put, the first column is going to be income. And we're going to do proposed because unless you have, if you have all, yeah, we're going to do proposed, and this is going to be a guess on it so that we're not into adding things and getting exact right now. So under income, if we do, let's see, if your first one, if your money is all coming in a paycheck, you can put paycheck. If your money comes in from different sources, just list them all the different sources. So for me, it would be like I would have commissions, and I would have photography, and what else? Stock sales.
Hey, are you entering this into a spreadsheet right now?
Yeah, are you not seeing it?
No, what I'm seeing is the PowerPoint still setting up your budget.
Let me do this. Now do you have it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you see where I put all the different sources of income. I know, like Robin, you have a lot of different sources of income.
Yeah.
Too. So you just list all your different sources of income and then put numbers in here from what you think for a month you would be bringing in. And put miscellaneous. And then I'm just gonna put some numbers in here. And then I'm going to select my column B and make that all into money. And then we'll put a subtotal. And we grab that box, slide it upwards, and do the auto sum. So it adds it up for us. So the next thing we're going to do is do the expenses. Oops.
How is this different from the one you did in an earlier one?
Did I do a budget or did I just do a,
Income tracking.
yeah, I think I just did a tracking one. So this
You
one
had
is,
expenses and all that.
pardon me?
You had expenses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you were tracking the expenses on a daily basis.
High level.
This is a monthly budget now. We're going to look at, so these numbers are what we think we're going to bring in for the month. And then these numbers are going to be what we're going to spend for the month. Now these now underneath your expenses, these are, remember that category under your expenses? We had one thing that said category, and that's
Yep.
where these come, that's where your categories are going to get listed here. So your first category would be your peace of mind fund. So because safety first. Peace of mind fund. So then what we want to do is for the peace of mind fund, remember we talked about 10% of your income should go into your peace of mind fund until you build it up. So if $500 was the income, then 10% would be
$50.
So we put $50 in the peace of mind fund. And that's our short-term savings. It's also, when we have 5 or 6 months of expenses built up in that fund, then in that place will go short-term savings where we can save up for specific short-term things like a vacation or a car or something. So after peace, and you want to put the, or I want you to put the peace of mind fund as your first line item under expenses, because I want that, because that's how important that is. I want that money to come out before any other money comes out. So then, after peace of mind fund comes the big picture, long-term savings. And that was also 10%, so there's another $50 there.
Excuse me.
Bless you. So when you see that I'm putting these kind of the savings things at the top of the expenses before your regular living expenses come out, does that pull up any kind of emotional response?
Well, for me, yes, because my income is so variable.
Yeah. And so what is the emotion that comes up for you?
You know, it just feels you know, that I'm an idiot, and I don't know. It's like it's just like right. That's how real people do it, but I'm obviously not a real person. Otherwise, I would have real income.
Well, it's not how most real people do it, but that's because most people don't think about it that way, but this is the safe way to do it in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. When I had a full-time job, I had a peace of mind fund, and I had long-term. Like I was doing this when I had, for the 4 years that I worked a full-time job.
Uh-huh.
It was lovely.
Oh, good for
I
you.
hated the fucking job. I wanted to kill everybody. And then they got laid off, and I was fine for the, for the 5 or 6 months or whatever. I actually was fine. This actually works. Except when I don't have my income set up right.
Yeah. So that's the next thing to work on. But right now, I just want you to not stress when you see those numbers, because these are, I want the numbers to just go in there. And then later on, when we do the income minus the outgo, then we can go back and chip away at those numbers. But from the start, I just want them to be there. And they're not, they're just numbers. So when the first time I did this, I had a stress response, because I just looked at it and went, oh my God, I need to be able to do this. And I don't think I can right now, and blah, 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 blah. And lots of loud voices in my head stressing me out. And I just want to remind you that this is just ink. Well, it's not ink. I don't even know what you call it. It's just marks on a screen here, and it can't hurt you. It's just numbers. And that's all it is. It's here to help us, not to hurt us. So then after the big picture thing, then we want to do the fun account. And this is, we talked about at the beginning that there was emotional spending that we do. That comes out of the fun account. So we put also 10% in here. And that would be anything that doesn't fit in, that isn't budgeted for when stuff comes up that we want to do that's not budgeted for. It comes out of our fun account. We have money now for that. So it shouldn't affect the rest of our budget. Let's see.
How much for vacation do you put in?
The vacation fund is the peace of mind fund. After
you've filled it up to a certain level, then then that just becomes a standing thing, and then you keep putting that same 10% into. Now I'm making a big short-term thing happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What percentage of the vacation? 10%?
Yeah. Okay. And then the next one is for learning. And if you have a business, then you can probably put your learning expenses under your business account as a business expense. If you don't have a business, then you should have a learning, you should be spending money on learning, always be learning. Or as Tony Robbins would say, constant and never-ending improvement.
So do you have, you may have covered this in a previous lesson, but do you have recommended percentages of
For
income that you spend on, housing and different
housing,
types of actual expenses? Because if you're starting with the 10%, I'm looking at that and there's like, they none of that left by the time I cover my nut.
Yeah, the housing is going to be right after. We're going to do the learning, then donations is 5% for donations or charity. So that would be $25 here. Right. And then housing, well, mortgage or rent. And then there's property taxes.
Insurance.
Property insurance.
Well, car insurance, all kinds of insurance.
Yeah. For these housing expenses all together, it should be 25 to 30% of your income. And that's especially tough in California. But that's so you know what it should be.
The ideal is.
Your net or your gross? Are you talking on all this net or gross?
It depends on what's taken out that leaves you with your net. So I would,
Taxes.
yeah, for me it's net mainly because all of my deductions come out in my business side. If you're,
I'm salary, so it's all taxes.
so you're, it's,
And then I have some auto deducts for bills.
yeah,
Below.
so it's just, you can just take out your taxes and it's your net after that, but it's not your net after your 401k, because your 401k can be your long-term savings. So it's add your 401k back in, add your health insurance back in, because those are going to be separate line items.
Okay, so the housing would be 30% of net before.
It actually can be 30% of your, it can be 30% of your gross.
Gross.
Yeah. And that's with your mortgage, property taxes, and property insurance altogether. I also add in life insurance, ideally, because I like to have everybody who's on the mortgage have life insurance so that the house doesn't go away, so we don't lose the house if somebody passes, meaning my ex-husband, who is on my mortgage right now. So I pay for life insurance on him. So then we do car payment would be the next thing, big thing. And then gasoline.
Car insurance.
Car insurance. Maintenance. Maintenance. And then the next thing would be health insurance.
Oh yeah, what about house maintenance?
Yeah. It'd be good to add that up in there. Let's see, insert.
Do you have a recommended number for that?
Pardon me?
Do you have a recommended number for that?
No, because that's going to vary a lot depending on how old or new your house is. And sometimes the fixes to the house maintenance will be coming out of your short-term savings. Well, out of your peace of mind fund. So if you have something bust that needs to be fixed, pull it out of there. That's what that's for. And then besides the health insurance would be medical expenses. I know some people have ongoing medical expenses. Whoops, what is this? So that category covers doctor visits and prescriptions and stuff. And then phone. If you have a business, then you're probably putting that on your business budget and taking it as a deduction. Your internet, which also could be a business expense. TV, there's so many different ways to get television nowadays. Groceries. Eating out or ordering in. I put them both in the same category because they're both spending more on food than what you can get away with. Wardrobe. This is purchases and maintenance. Pets, just everything to do with them in one category. Food, vet, other. Personal care. This would be like mani-pedis, haircuts, purchasing makeup, cosmetics, deodorant, whatever else, personal care items, shampoo and all that stuff.
Would exercise classes, yoga classes be in there?
You know what? Sometimes I put a separate health category, and so you could put that in there too. Also, if you buy your vitamins from somewhere, special, separate from your groceries and stuff. Oh, and then household stuff. Household cleaners or things that you purchase to make your house more comfortable or pretty.
Gifts.
Then let's see. Does anybody have other things that comes up for them?
Gifts, holiday
What
stuff.
about dental that costs about $6,000 and you don't have it?
Dental?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you hit that, when it's like $6,000, that comes out of your peace of mind fund.
Okay.
Because that's dental stuff is hard to. It's not something that you can really budget for, unless it's a short-term savings item.
What about gifts and
Gifts, that's a good one. Yeah,
holiday stuff?
gifts.
Art supplies.
Yeah.
What about a new car?
She's got car payment there.
Yeah.
No, a car to purchase. Oh, you got a new car. Okay.
Yeah.
What about credit cards?
Debt payments.
Somewhere in there, it all comes under any one of those subject lines.
Debt, that's under debt.
Well, yeah, I put a separate one for debt payments.
But you should break it out by the.
Well, the mortgage
category.
is a separate one and the car payment is a separate one. But then if there's debt like other kinds of loans, unless you have if you have a student debt, like a student loan, I would put that one separately because that's usually a big chunk. But then I pile all the credit cards and the lines of credit and stuff just under debt payments.
Isn't that kind of a blind spot though, if you don't break it out what you're spending, what the debt is for? Because if you're using it for monthly stuff and not paying it off.
I put it, well, when you do your tracking, you're gonna separate it out because you're gonna anything you pay for with a credit card is going to go under your tracking, and it will go under one of these categories. But the debt that you already have, are you still having to make those debt payments? So you have to have them in your budget there. And if you do have a big chunk of debt, then I have a system for paying it down that involves making the same payments every month towards all of your debt. So it makes it an easy line item that way.
What about alteration, ladies?
Alterations, you're talking about wardrobe?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that goes under wardrobe purchases and maintenance.
Oh, okay. And let's say you want to get Botox or cosmetic services.
That would go under personal care.
Personal care.
Okay. So let's see. Let me see. 500. Okay, so then we're going to do some miscellaneous to hold space down here. And then we do a subtotal on these numbers. And then we're going to look at $500 was our subtotal up here. So we have income was 500. And then we have expenses. And that's 350. Negative 350. And then we total these. And that's an extra 150 there, which obviously there wouldn't be any extra because we didn't fill in any of these lines. So I have $150 to spread across all this stuff in this scenario. So if you have extra money coming in, if you end up with extra money when you subtract your expenses from your income, then until you have your peace of mind fund, assuming that you put money in all these categories, until you have your peace of mind fund built up to 5 or 6 months of expenses, put the extra money in the peace of mind fund. If you have less money, if you come out negative, then subtract the money from these, from donations and learning and the fund account, and work your way up. And the peace of mind fund will be the last one that you steal from to cover the other expenses. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Nope.
Oh. So if you're finding that your numbers don't work, then now you have, when you look at your expense, when you look at what your difference is, and you have, if you have a, if you're negative at the bottom, then you know what you need to do to your, either to your income to bring it up to meet that, or to your expenses to lower them. I would prefer you look at the income and bring the income up. Let that be your focus, but just bring down the expenses when you get there.
So this is just a profit and loss sheet, right?
Well, profit and loss would be for the business sheet. This is the personal expenses.
Okay.
What's the matter? You sound, your voice sounds very down.
Because I'm looking at all these categories going, oh crap, I got to get to work and make some money to pay all this stuff. Again, I have problems separating business from personal, so that's why I'm sort of looking at some of this. I do put in profit and loss for the business, but
yeah,
I got to start separating it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
So see if you can get that done by next week, Sandy.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Susie.
Hi, Bobby. So when you look at it, look at what you need to do to build up your numbers. Whether that's get an extra job, build up your business more, ask for a raise, increase your prices.
Yes, Bob.
Bobby, you got to go get another job.
Yeah, okay. Hire me.
Good idea.
Sorry, I got to pimp him out again.
Good idea.
Hey, it was good seeing you that night.
Yeah, good seeing you too. So what you want to do then, when you start to build up your money in your long-term savings account, that's when you're going to start looking for other places to put that money. the first thing that you're going to want to do, because this is where you're going to build up your fiscal score. Remember we talked about you're going to build up fiscal score, and
Mhm.
within your income and expenses, the part that builds up your score here is your long-term savings account. I keep pointing to my screen, I'm sorry. The long-term savings money is where you're going to be doing that build up. And you want it to be more than just what you're managing to put away. You want to also have the money go to work for you. My first recommendation is that you set up a Roth IRA if you don't have one. And if you're already, like if you have a 401k at work, then that limits how much you can put into a Roth IRA, because you have a maximum. If you're under 50, the most you can put into a Roth in a year is $5,500, $5,500. And if you're over 50, then you get to put an extra $1,000, $6,500, because you need to catch up.
Can you spend your Roth or no?
Pardon me?
Can you spend the Roth, or is it only a?
The money that you're putting into the Roth is the money that you're putting away for long term.
Okay.
So
You really can't touch it.
you can touch it, but there's different things. Like if you haven't had it in there for 5 years yet, and you take it out before 5 years go by, then
Mhm.
you end up paying a 10% penalty on that money. You won't have to pay
Wow.
taxes on it, but you'll pay a 10% penalty because it's supposed to be a retirement fund.
Okay, and
And they'll deduct that.
I'm
in the
sorry, I'm
account.
stepping on him. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
They will deduct that from the account, the 10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Susie, is that something you could set up as like a Roth account? You can do that, right?
Yeah.
To try, yeah.
She was talking to
Right.
me. Susie.
Okay.
I can set that up for you, or I can even tell you how to set it up for yourself. Either way, it just depends on what you want to have be inside. I mean, what kind of, if you want it to be stocks inside, or mutual funds, or if you want it to be a, annuity. There's different things that you can do that have different levels of risk.
Okay. And what would be the lowest amount you could start with?
I have set up Roth IRA annuities for $100 a month. Somebody had started with $100 and they were putting in $100 a month. That might be a minimum for that kind.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have a higher minimum to put in, but then you don't have to put any more in after that. There's a lot of different ways. It just sort of depends on what your situation is, what your plan is.
Okay.
But $100 is probably the minimum that you want to put into an account, into a retirement account to get started.
Okay. 50 would be too low, right?
You know, I don't know if it's too low. You might be able to start one with $50 in like a TD Ameritrade account.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure. I will take a look at that though. I was starting to look at TD Ameritrade today, just because I already have a brokerage account there, and I could take. I was starting to look at to see if they have a minimum for a Roth. So I'll take a look at some different ones and let you know.
Okay, well, good. That's fine.
Another way to make money off of your money, because it's money in motion that makes money, is to lend it out. And there's two different ways to lend it out. One is through bonds, which are loans to corporations or to governments. And another way to do it is through I don't know if you've heard of these kind of crowdfunding,
Like peer-to-peer.
yeah. So like
Kiva.
Pardon me?
Like Kiva. I think that's where you can lend. They vet the people, and then I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
what those are. It's like that. There's like prosper.com is like that, or lending club. It's like that, those kind of things. There's a little bit more, I don't even know if I should say there's a little bit more risk between that or you selecting your own stocks. There's probably less risk in the group lending things because they do have systems there, how they decide whether or not to loan to people. So those are a couple of like beginning step strategies that you can do with your long-term savings accounts, assuming that you're starting with a smaller amount of money and you haven't done anything, you've never set up an IRA before. What I'm going to offer everybody too is a 1 hour private one-on-one phone call or Zoom call, so that if you want me to take a look at your specific situation and give you feedback on stuff, or if you have questions that are specific to your situation, that'll give you an opportunity to do that. If we do it like on Zoom, then I can actually look at what you have without, or we can get together and do it in person. But that's something you can just send me an email during the week and say you want to set something up, and we'll set up a time to do that.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any other questions for today? Because we're almost out of time. And do you have anything that you would like me to address next week? Because next week is our last of the 6 weeks. No?
How long
Okay.
is,
Go ahead.
how long will those tape replays be available to listen to?
Probably till the end of August.
Okay, so when we cut off next week, we can still have another 2 weeks to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that helps. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Susie.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you, Susie.
You're welcome. My pleasure. You guys have a good week. I'll see you next week. And if you have any questions in the meantime, just email, text, or call me.
I keep sending in the 5-day thing.
What?
Keep sending in the 5-day challenge, right?
Yeah, if you're doing it's the 30-day challenge. 5
Yeah.
ideas a day for 30 days. Yeah,
Right. Okay.
keep sending those in. Okay, great.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Okay.
guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Susie.
Bye.